They say storms don't just hit the land, they hit pride. Last night my HOA president tore down the sandbag barrier I built to protect my home. This morning her $1 million car was floating in the creek like a broken toy. Funny thing is, I didn't have to lift a finger. Karma did the heavy lifting. My name's David Miller, and when I bought a house in Maple Creek Estates, I thought I was buying peace. Turns out I was just paying admission for front row seats to one of the most arrogant HOA boards in the country. I had spent 25 years working in civil infrastructure, designing drainage systems, flood channels, levees, you name it. I thought I'd earned my rest. But when I first walked through this perfect neighborhood, something immediately felt wrong. The ground dipped toward the backyards. The creek, Maple Creek, coiled behind our homes like a sleeping snake. Pretty to look at. Deadly when it wakes. I spotted it the day I moved in. The lawns all sloped the wrong way. The storm drains were too small, clogged by decorative mulch. Retaining walls looked like stage props, all limestone veneer, no reinforcement. I'd seen this story before, just with different victims. So at the first HOA meeting, I stood up in that air-conditioned clubhouse, maps in hand, and calmly explained how one heavy rain could turn our cul-de-sac into a shallow lake. The president, Avery Lopez, sat across the table in her pearl necklace and blazer like she was chairing a Fortune 500 company. She leaned back, arms crossed, lips curved into a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Mr. Miller," she said, "we appreciate your enthusiasm, but this community was designed by professionals. Let's not spread unnecessary alarm." Some people chuckled. Others avoided my eyes. I recognized the look the kind soldiers used to give before a briefing went south, the silent plea to just drop it. So I did, at least on the surface. Instead, I prepared quietly. I bought sandbags, stored them in my garage, measured the slope of my lawn, watched the weather. By mid-September, the ground was already soggy from weeks of drizzle, and when meteorologists announced a tropical storm heading our way, I didn't panic. I got to work. That morning, I was stacking bags around my back fence when Avery's silver SUV pulled up, tires crunching against the gravel. The window rolled down with a hiss. "Mr. Miller," she said sweetly. "What are those?" "Sandbags," I answered without looking up. "Storm's coming." She stepped out, spotless white sneakers on my wet driveway, HOA badge clipped to her jacket like it made her royalty. "You can't just pile those here," she said. "They're unsightly. They violate the landscaping clause." I wiped my hands on my jeans and looked her dead in the eye. "So do half the SUVs parked across sidewalks, but I'm not filing complaints." Her jaw tightened. "This is serious, Mr. Miller. You're creating panic. It lowers property confidence." I pointed at the sky, heavy and gray. "In 12 hours, that creek will be at your back door. Confidence won't stop it." "The board hasn't approved those sandbags," she snapped. "Remove them or we'll issue a citation." "Do what you have to," I said. "But I'm not letting water walk into my living room just because you like clean lines." She glared at me one last time, then stormed off, tires spitting gravel. I watched her go and thought, people like that think rules can stop nature. They can't. That evening the wind shifted. The air thickened. Even the birds vanished. By nightfall I was tightening the last row of bags when I heard the sharp click of heels on gravel. Avery again this time, with 2 board members trailing behind her, clipboards in hand, like they were enforcing the law. "Mr. Miller," she announced loudly, "you are in direct violation of Section 14B, Landscaping Uniformity. Remove these immediately." I stared at her. "You've got to be kidding me. They're not landscaping. They're protection." Her smile froze. "The board disagrees." "And the creek?" I asked, pointing toward the muddy water line that was already creeping higher. "FEMA downgraded this zone because your board lobbied to avoid higher insurance premiums." "You want me to quote the public record?" Color rose under her makeup. "You're spreading misinformation." "No," I said calmly, "I'm spreading sandbags." That's when she leaned closer and hissed, "Remove them or we'll escalate." I didn't move. "Go ahead," I said. "You'll find I don't fold just because someone waves a clipboard." She left in silence. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Around midnight I heard something outside, faint scraping, a thud, then whispers. I turned off the porch light and looked through the window. Under the pale glow of a neighbor's floodlight I saw 2 figures, one short and stiff, one taller, nervous. Avery Lopez, still in pearls, directing her teenage nephew like a general. He was dragging my sandbags, my protection, away from the barrier. I froze. I didn't yell, didn't rush out. I simply hit record on my porch camera feed. The night vision lens caught everything: Avery's manicured hand pointing her smirk as they kicked one of my sandbags down toward the creek. "Teach him a lesson," she said. That was the moment my frustration turned into something else. Disbelief, rage, maybe both. They finished within minutes. A third of my barrier gone, another third dumped in her yard like trash. When their SUV disappeared into the dark, I just stood there, fists clenched, watching water begin to lap against the spots she'd cleared. Then the storm hit. Rain hammered the roof like bullets. Wind screamed through the trees. The creek roared a sound I hadn't heard since my fieldwork days, the sound of something alive and angry. I rushed outside in a poncho, trying to rebuild the barrier with the old torn sandbags I had left. My boots sank into mud. Water raced through the gaps she'd created straight toward my basement door. Every shovel of sand felt heavier than the last. At one point I stopped and leaned on my knees, gasping. What am I even doing? I thought. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm the crazy one stacking sand like a doomsday prepper while everyone else sleeps dry. For a moment I wanted to just stop to let the water take what it wanted, but then I looked toward the creek and remembered why I built that barrier in the first place. I didn't survive years of floods just to lose everything because someone thought my yard didn't fit the aesthetic. So I kept stacking, until I couldn't, until the rain drowned the sound of my own breath. When dawn finally came, I stepped outside into silence. The neighborhood looked like it had gone 10 rounds with a hurricane. Fences, collapsed driveways, split open lawns buried in mud. My house was battered but standing. The basement took some water, but the rest held firm. My paranoia, as Avery called it, had saved me. But 2 houses up Avery's driveway was empty. I followed the voices of neighbors down toward the creek, and there it was, her luxury Lexus half submerged, twisted between 2 trees like a dead animal. Mud streaked across its perfect white paint, the passenger door flapping with every push of the current. No one said a word. We just stared. Someone whispered, "Is anyone inside?" Firefighters arrived minutes later and confirmed it was empty. Relief spread, but it didn't erase the truth. Karma had a cruel sense of timing. I went back home, copied the footage to a USB stick, and waited. When the police knocked that afternoon, soaked and exhausted, I handed them the drive. "You'll want to see this," I said. The officer nodded, slid it into an evidence bag, and promised to follow up. By noon, the story spread faster than the flood. Avery tore down the sandbags, they whispered. Her car's in the creek. I didn't confirm it. I didn't need to. That evening, Avery finally stepped outside. No pearls, no blazer, just sweatpants and hollow eyes. Her nephew stood behind her, staring at the ground. Neighbors surrounded her yard, demanding answers. "You put us all at risk," one shouted. "You almost flooded our homes." Avery's voice shook, but her pride didn't die easily. "I was protecting the neighborhood's image." That word, image, broke whatever sympathy people had left. "Your image almost drowned us," someone yelled. I stepped forward, calm but sharp. "You destroyed a barrier meant to protect lives. Now look at what's in the creek. Avery, your pride, your image, your car. That's your legacy." For once she said nothing, just turned and walked inside. 2 days later, the HOA called an emergency meeting. The clubhouse was packed, the biggest crowd I'd ever seen there. Usually these meetings were ghost towns filled with retirees complaining about mailboxes. Not this time. People were angry, wet, tired. I sat in the back with my laptop and the footage ready. At exactly 6 o'clock, Avery walked in. Still trying to look composed, though her hair was limp and her hands trembled, she started with her usual charm. "Thank you all for coming. I know the storm was hard on everyone, but the board is addressing—" Kathy Tran, a young mother, cut her off. "Addressing what you did. My yard almost flooded because you tore down his sandbags." The room buzzed. Avery blinked rapidly. "That's not true." I stood. "It is true, and I have proof." The entire room went silent. I handed the USB to Alan Bishop, the HOA treasurer. He plugged it into the projector, and seconds later there she was on the screen. Avery Lopez, pearls glinting in the dark, dragging my sandbags away. Her voice echoed, Teach him a lesson. When the video ended, you could have heard a pin drop. Then the shouting started. You endangered us. You lied. You cost us thousands. Avery tried to speak, but the words tangled. That's not what it looks like. It looks exactly like that, Kathy said. You put property values over people. Alan finally raised his voice. Enough. Effective immediately, Avery Lopez is suspended from the HOA board pending removal. The crowd erupted applause, anger, relief. Avery slammed her hand on the table. You can't do this. I am the HOA. I met her eyes. No, you're just a woman who thought power meant control. Nature doesn't take orders, Avery. Neither do we. Her face went white. She turned and stormed outdoors, slamming behind her so hard it rattled the windows. That was the last time she ever stood at the front of that room. When the meeting ended, neighbors came up to shake my hand. Alan asked if I'd help draft real safety plans. I said yes, as long as we agreed on one thing, no more pretending. We prepare or we drown. That night, as I walked home under the flickering streetlights, I saw Avery's house. Curtains drawn, her once proud lawn now covered in mud, her car, or what was left of it, hauled away earlier that day. And I realized storms don't just test structures, they test people. Avery's test came and she failed spectacularly, but for the rest of us, maybe that flood washed away more than mud. Maybe it cleared something that had been rotting under the surface all along: fear, vanity, silence. Because in Maple Creek Estates, we finally learned that rules can't stop water, and pride can't stop karma.